project outside of just strictly music. That's dope. But yeah, I don't know anybody else trying something like this, and this is good because I feel like it's weird. I don't like pay attention to anybody that like is on YouTube that's Canadian, I guess, for example, but like there's so many people that do podcasts and vlogs and shit like that are just like ridiculously famous in the US, and I see nobody from Canada doing that, and I have no idea why.
Yeah, there are so many people. Like I personally listen to a bunch of them like religiously, daily, right? That they're all American, like Joe Rogan, a bunch of his comedian friends. There's guys that do like history lessons and shit like that about the world wars and stuff, and it just made sense for me to start doing this. And I was like, I have a ton of people that I know. I've got artists and engineer friends and producers and stuff, and we can kind of start a platform for Vancouver a little bit.
Well, yeah, because that's something that needs to happen, man. Like literally, it seems like everybody just like, I don't know. There's a lot of artists in Vancouver, and just like a lot of people that are trying to like, I don't know. They're trying to do things like skipping steps almost. Like they're almost like, there's so many people in Vancouver trying to do music related stuff, yet it seems like, and you could talk to like a lot of people, there's almost like no music scene in Vancouver. It's weird. Like it exists, but it's like, it's not present. And you were actually telling me a while ago that like people seem really territorial about like going to different studios and sticking with their homies and so on and so forth. And like people don't want to branch out and try things like, for example, doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This way I'm like, I'm on neutral ground.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not like one camp. I'm just like, I would hope that once I start gaining some momentum that, all different people would be down to be on the show, and not just even hip hop people, but there's lots of people doing rock in this city, and like, indie, and, anything that involves a tambourine, that kind of.
Yeah. Well, I know, in the area that like 2 Tracks in, that's where I went to Blue Light or whatever, Blue Light Studio.
Okay.
And that's all for like rock, I'm pretty sure. It's like all live sound, and they have like a live room with the drum set up, all that stuff. But yeah, it seems a lot more like rock oriented, or like I don't know, maybe they make country music there. I have no idea. Nobody's ever there when we're there. We're just like messing around.
You go on, like, so these are school field trips that you're going on?
Yeah, we've been going once a week for the past like 3 or 4 weeks, and first week, what did we even do? We tried to mic some drums and like guitar, and it sort of didn't work. It seems like every time we go to the studio, Pro Tools like has an issue, or something has an issue. Like, the Pro Tools problems never seem to end. I mean, like back at school, we had to move into in a different room because the original desktop Mac we were working on, like Pro Tools, like a bunch of the key commands stopped working, and then like you couldn't install like any of the updates, and a bunch of the stock stuff for Pro Tools like was requiring the administrator password to install. And they had, like, the computer people had changed it, and so Pro Tools, the computer acts up, like everything acts up, and then when we went to the studio, it was like almost no different, except it was strictly Pro Tools just like not wanting to do things.
Yeah. It's weird like that. It's finicky, It's the whole iLock thing that you have to use with Pro Tools that you don't have to do with the other DAWs. It's strange that it's strange to me that it became the industry standard, because it's the most like particular of the DAWs that I've worked with. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like you can open it back up after working on a flawless session, and then something inside of it's like broken.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
It asks you a lot of questions, whereas Logic kind of does stuff for you a little bit. It's kind of got a crutch in that sense, especially for producing. Like I remember trying to produce, like make a beat in Pro Tools back when I was in school, and I was like, forget it. It's like the MIDI realm of Pro Tools is non-existent. I mean, it's there, but it's not fluid, it's not organic feeling, whereas Logic, you've got your sample library, you've got your loops, you can throw stuff together, and it's just boom, boom, boom. It's colorful. It like locks the tempo for you on things, and Jesus, like
Yeah, no. Like I find I open Pro Tools and I'm making some weird mistakes within the first couple seconds, just clicking in the wrong place. Like every time I open it, I try and change the BPM, and then I set a marker that like changes the BPM in the middle of the song by accident, and it's just it's so irritating to deal with. But you know, like I've actually seen like good results from people that have sort of like forced themselves to use Pro Tools. Like I met this one kid. There's only actually one example, but I met this one kid, and I stopped by my high school just to say what was up to the teachers, and one of my teachers said to me like, "Oh, hey, check out this kid or whatever. He makes beats like you or whatever." And so I'm like, "Oh, okay." I wanted to hear it. I listen, and I'm just asking him some questions, and I know like it sounded really good what he was playing me. It was just like some dope trap beats, and I was just like, "Whoa, what did you make this on?" And he's like, "Pro Tools." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
wow.
And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "So did you start on Pro Tools?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I was like, "You've never had another DAW?" And he's like, I think he might have said he had like Cubase or something before, but he like didn't like it, and then he like like I don't even know how he like why would you download Pro Tools and then like I don't know, it's weird because so many people when they get into producing now, it's like you look up on YouTube like how to make music.
Yeah.
And then it's FL Studio, and it's like, oh, how do I get FL Studio? And then you find out it's like the easiest software to crack.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he got an iLock protected software, but you know, he's making fire music on it.
Well, if
he forced himself to learn how it works, and as a result, though, he gets good results.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, if you don't know anything else, he has no comparison. That's all he knows, and then you teach yourself to use it, and you can't. I guess you can get good at it. Like, but that's impressive. What are you using these days?
I still use FL. Like every once in a while, I'll open Logic, but like. I don't know. I find I can do things in. I'm pretty proficient in Ableton, but I find like the only reason I don't use the other DAWs is because like I could do, for the most part, what I could do in FL in Ableton, but it just takes me longer. And like of course I'd get faster the more and more I use it, but then it begs the question like, well, I'm already so fast at this one software. Why take time away from that when I could be like making music on the one DAW, trying to figure out the other one? And you know, there's pros and cons. Like I'd lose the time, but I would get better at Ableton. But I don't know. Some things it's just like workflow related. Like you have the drum rack in Ableton. Otherwise, like arranging your drums is pretty hard. And in Logic, I find making drum loops like practically impossible. Ultra Beat and ESX or whatever, ESX 24. Garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage. Get Native Instruments battery or anything else. You could probably find a free drum rack or drum sampler on the internet that will be better. They are so bad. Like every single person in my class who is like, we've gone through it. We all know how to use it properly and like easily, and still everybody hates it and says it's impossible.
Yeah, for starting something from scratch, Ultra Beat is like you're just clicking on these blue lines and making them light blue, and then you're like, oh my god, there's this sequencer, and it's hard to get into it.
Well, like I like with FL for me, it's like I drop in my samples, and then most of the time, I don't know if it like default normalizes things, but you almost get like a constant volume for your samples. Like if you're dropping in a kick, most of the time your kick's gonna be around like -3 or just at 0. Whereas like I'm using Ultra Beat, and like you gotta like basically manually reset all of your volumes before so that you're like you have a rough concept. Because like I don't know, I get really confused and I'm looking at all these various volume levels. I'd like to have everything at like, you know, turned up and then do my mixing on the mixer afterwards or something like that. Like make sure everything is like, I don't know. Like it has like a stopping point, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe it, because you can't like how can you base your mix off of something when you like don't really know how other things are sitting? It's I don't know how to describe it. It just
Can you export your individual stems out of Ultra Beat? Like you've got like your sequencer there, and then you've got your kick, your snare, your hat. And then that's recorded into separate tracks into Logic, isn't it? So you do have them separated afterwards.
If you set it up multi-output, it does.
Okay.
But again, that's another thing. Setting up, okay, yeah, in order to get like each of your individual drums onto a mixer track, you have to set up the instrument as multi-output, and as the moment you do that, things become more confusing because it doesn't even like show you the direct path to like all your drums. You have to add more like mixer tracks, even though they're technically already there. It's really weird, and it doesn't tell you what like after you add them. And I mean, okay, I'm sort of a sucker for like convenience and ease because I'm really used to FL. I'm really it's fast, it's easy. Having to like, first off, you set your drum thing to multi-output, and then you have to add all of the mixer tracks in, hoping that you don't like over add and then have some mixer tracks that are just not even being used, which you can delete, but that's extra time to do that. But then on top of that, you have to then solo through each one of them and then name them because they don't pick up the names of the channels that are in an ultra beat or whatever. If it auto names, it doesn't carry over to the mixer. So it just says in 1 2 in 3 4, and it continues. And so I don't know,
routing headaches, man.
Yeah With FL, it's drag and drop and go. Boom. Do
you get does FL come with a sample library?
Yeah, it does. They're pretty bad, but some of them are actually pretty usable. I think I watched a video recently where it actually demonstrated that Soulja Boy's Crank Dat was made using all stock FL Studio sounds, which is pretty funny.
Damn.
But it also it became very clearly apparent. You know, the song's like over 10 years old now, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, that was out when I was in high school.
Yeah, it sounds old though. It sounds it doesn't sound modern anymore, and it's literally only been 10 years. But that's at stock drums, you know.
Are you at a point where you can, like, if you hear something on wherever, a movie, on a commercial or something, and it's made in a DAW you're familiar with, like, are you able to distinguish certain drum sounds? Because I've found myself a handful of times being like, oh, that's a straight up like drummer from Logic. It was a comedy special I watched just last night, and the guy's walkout music was literally made straight from Logic, and they didn't even bother to mask any of the sounds, put any saturation, distortion. It was just like clean Logic sounds, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, no, like I don't know. I don't notice. Like, I could probably, after hearing it a bit, I could probably pick out like the Logic drummer or whatever on the track. But I don't know. Occasionally you hear like the default sounds from FL, but like I don't know any, like I don't think Ableton really has like stock drums or anything. It might.
I'm not sure.
But like, I wouldn't recognize anything from Ableton. I definitely couldn't recognize the fact that it was like produced in Ableton. Although my teachers have told me there's some weird thing with Ableton where 0 isn't actually 0. It's like negative 0.5 or something. It's really strange, but for some reason, like when mastering in Ableton, you get a bit more distortion. But like I wouldn't notice that if something like that. But occasionally you notice like the default stock clap in FL Studio is a pretty easy to pick out one. But most people don't use it because it sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Some weird vintage sounds, there's ones. It's more like actually you'll hear them in tracks. Like the majority of the stuff that you were hearing like 10, 12 years ago, if you go back into like the legacy drums on FL, you can find a lot of the sounds that were in some of those tracks. But like, I don't know, it's probably mostly Soulja Boy tracks because literally everything is from the legacy FL drums. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, but you know, even, you know, whatever that was, 13 so years ago, there weren't as many producers as there are now. And, you know, the internet's just gotten so much bigger since then. So people are going to be able to pick that out a lot easier now than they would have that long, you know, like I said, just, you know, a decade ago. Everything's so much more accessible now. I mean, we had the internet back then, but like we're talking, think about how much things have advanced now, like how quickly we get information on Twitter and you know, Instagram snippets and stuff. So I don't know if you could get away with making a a big beat nowadays with all stock instruments. I just don't think it would fly.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing too. Is like since I don't know, it's mostly been since like social media got popular and like sort of producers somewhat got a platform to get exposed, I guess, or noticed. That I don't know. It's sort of become like a competition of who can make like the wildest and most complex beats and who can use the weirdest sounds and like still make them sound good. Because that's the thing is like you can use like the stock drums and like the legacy drums and you just got to use them creatively. And the thing is like 10 years ago or whatever, like the way they were used was creative. It was a lot more simpler. But the thing is there's obviously been like extremely complex music, like even like hundreds of years ago, you know what I mean? But like when it came to like trap music and just like a lot of music as of recently, it seems like people are incorporating like more complex like ways of processing their sounds, like adding totally new things that weren't present in like the same genre 10 years ago or whatever. Like I don't know, like I'm noticing, okay, like in trap music, for example, you're having beats that have like vocal chops and stuff used in them now a lot more.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? I'm totally going to blank out here. Blanking out.
Using vocals in trap beats.
What the fuck?
Are you sure that's just vape juice?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. No, what the fuck?
Okay, let's rewind. We were talking about Soulja Boy, and then we went into
no, yeah, okay, no, like
trap beats, and then
no, okay, like you got things like a lot of the pop music, for example, now incorporates like just like gigantic portions of EDM, like a lot of the stuff you hear on the radio now, like you used to hear these like crazy good hooks, and to a degree they're still there, but a lot of them are complemented with some sort of drop, whether it's like some just super catchy melody or whatever with electronic music drums, or it's a vocal chop, because like the Chainsmokers do that.
Yep.
And stuff like that. But as a result, like it's simple ideas with more complex processing, but then there also are the very complex ideas that just blow my mind. But
oh yeah,
people that are doing that stuff are crazy.
Well, think about Bieber's last album. That was, I mean, he's supposed to be a pop artist. We've known him as like this pop teen idol, but that Purpose album was full of like EDM drops and big, you know, Calvin Harris type synth hooks and stuff. And it was like, man, this is a merger of a lot of different things going on here. It was great. Like, it was entertaining. The production was phenomenal, right? But he's got like fucking teams of guys from all across different genres working with him, you know?
Yeah. It's weird too, because like I don't know. We live in we were just talking about this before we started. We live in like an age where people can like collaborate so easily.
Yeah.
Like, you know, getting all these melody ideas from other producers, like Murda Beats using Q Beat samples and stuff like that, as well as like a lot of other producers, you know. And it's pretty crazy, because like you have like Skrillex and Diplo producing for Justin Bieber and stuff like that, and making crazy radio hits. And so it's not just like trap music, it's like it's all sorts of music. But it's also weird because, you know, then you have Justin Bieber putting out the album that he sung over but had 100 people sort of make for him to a degree.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's the way, that's, to my understanding, that's the way it has been historically for pop singers. Like, Britney Spears wasn't in there on the drum machine, you know? She had, you know, all those guys, Dr. Luke, people like that, behind the boards making the beats. But nowadays we're seeing so much more of like a cross collaboration of genres kind of intermingling more. The pop singers still like the focus of the song, but nowadays we don't just have the pop beats. Like, hip hop is integrating into everything now.
Well,
you know.
So like, I just heard a song on the radio the other day, and this surprised me, because I didn't think I would be hearing Killy on the radio out here like this quick, at least, because obviously he is up and coming and he's blowing up massively. But yeah, he had a track with some girl, I can't remember her name, and it's produced by Boy Wonder.
Okay.
And yeah, It's literally a pop song pretty much throughout the whole thing with a bit of a trap vibe, and it's the female leading the song the whole time, and then at the end you have Killy's verse and he just kills it. And I don't know, that's something that like really blew my mind, because that sort of stuff is coming more to the radio. You have like people that are not necessarily underground, but are a lot less known, that are creating these collaborations that are really like opening people's eyes. You know, I don't know how to describe it. You know what I mean though? Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff that I would expect to hear on the radio, and that wasn't it, if that makes sense. You know, I would think there'd be a lot, like there'd be a lot of other stuff out there that they'd be currently playing.
Yeah.
I didn't think this had that much like sort of light shined on it, if that makes sense. But it's because like that is the new thing. That is what's up and coming. Like, yeah, you can oversaturate the radio with pop and EDM, the hybrid mashups, but yeah, like sort of the pop rap thing, I think, is partially getting big too, like a lot.
Yeah, it works well. Like those the BPMs work.
Oh yeah.
You know, you just that dun, dun, just the straight kick. You can rap over that straight kick. That would historically be like a dance beat, like a 4 on the floor pattern, but it's real easy to throw Pitbull on that, you know, or insert, you know, Flow Rida, insert your rapper of choice. So yeah, it's just really interesting to see that happening with the internet and with SoundCloud, and, you know, with people's access to equipment now. Like before, you had to, you know, you had to have all the gear and you had to go to the studio and rent the space, but now just dudes online or might be in one genre, be a fan of someone else, and it's just so easy to send each other stuff, and something brand new is born right there. Like,
well, that's the thing, because the whole, like, I don't know, I guess you could say like pop, rap, EDM, sort of that whole idea, like all three of those genres have sort of, they've been on the radio for a super long time, at least like the top 40 stuff. But I guess sort of this sort of brings my point a bit more home, is like the artists that you would hear on the radio doing that sort of things were like ridiculously massive artists. Like, yeah, you'd have like these crazy collaborations where you get like Neo, Pitbull, other people like making these songs, and there's a bit of rap, there's a bit of pop, bit of EDM drop all in there, but it was like big industry guys that are like, you know, selling ridiculous amounts of albums. Now you have like the new guys doing the new stuff, like doing it even better, but like they don't have to be like, you know, already multi-millionaires to be getting their name out there and stuff like that. But that's literally because of the internet and stuff like that. You know, majority of the people that are even getting their record deals and stuff like that, they wouldn't even be known without the internet. They wouldn't be getting radio play, wouldn't be getting anything. I don't know. The internet is crazy, man. Yeah, it's changed a lot.
It's a lot of good and a lot of bad, but you know, for creative people, it's an incredible time to be alive right now. It's exciting. So what when you first like started making beats, like how old were you? What drew you to that sound? What was it? Was there a catalyst? Was there a producer, someone that you were aspiring to be like, someone that inspired you, or were you just like how did that start?
Well, okay, so in terms of actually getting into like touching a DAW, for example, my buddy Audio Drugs actually introduced me to FL Studio when I was like 12 or 13, but if it was 2012, it was like late in 2012. But like originally I wanted to like make EDM music, because I feel, and I swear to God, this is why there are like so many new rap beat producers. I swear, like 2011, 2012, 2013, EDM was like getting super big, and you were seeing people like Martin Garrix. He made that song Animals. He had YouTube tutorials out where he was showing like how he made everything in FL, and I think a lot of people originally wanted to get into EDM music. Maybe I'm totally wrong, and it was like just me and like a couple of my buddies.
I don't think you were alone in that.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of people like wanted to get into EDM music and realized it was way too complicated. Well, I don't know. Like some people they stuck with it. Like I had this one dude, like this buddy of mine in the U.S., and he was really devoted to learning mixing and mastering, but like I don't know. EDM is complex. It requires a lot of layers and some pretty advanced mixing to make the stuff actually sound good and not
Sure,
like a total pile of garbage. So I got into making EDM, realized I was totally garbage, and I did that for like 2 years. 2 or 3 years. I don't even know. I don't like to think about those times. Those are dark days. I was making some terrible music.
What was it about it that was intimidating or that was daunting? Was it like the chord structure and like those big synth pads?
Okay,
or
for the
was
first
it...
year and a half, for example, I didn't even realize really what mixing was.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize and again, I might be alone here, but I feel like this was a lot of people.
Yeah.
They didn't even know what like leveling in your mixer was, even basic stuff like that. Like I'm sure I was to a degree doing that when I was like trying to make EDM music, but like I didn't understand what was like sort of the good way to do things and the bad. Because I mean, like to a degree, it's like whatever sounds good is good.
Yep.
But when you don't know what sounds good, you sort of just like fucking do whatever, and it gets a bit messy real quick. So I was just destroying every mix. My ideas weren't very good. I was trying to do things that I just like, I don't know, things that I just like wasn't at the level to do yet.
Sure.
And I don't know. I was just like, I realized like a lot of my stuff was sounding the same because I don't know, like around 2012, 2013, when people were getting into it, that was when like a lot of it was dying because it became like really oversaturated. Like you had Spinnin' Records, which was releasing like EDM tracks like 2 or 3 times a week, new artists all the time, but eventually it just turned into garbage. And then so a lot of that stuff died, and that was like what a lot of the new EDM producers or whatever were like aiming for, was like stuff like Spinnin'. And I don't know what actually made me like switch over to like rap beats or whatever, or trap or whatever you want to call it, but I just sort of got bored of like trying to make house music and like not really getting anything out of it because I developed the notorious habit of not finishing anything, and to a degree I still have that problem. But it's, you still get stuff done, but like making beats doesn't require like as many layers as like complex mixing. I don't even know, but some of the results you get when you're making like trap beats, I think are cooler than anything you can get when you're making like EDM music. But don't get me wrong, you can make some pretty freaking crazy stuff. There is no real limit with EDM, but it requires, I don't know, a lot more involved time that I just don't really have. Like you got people that they sit and they just make EDM for like 10, 12 hours a day. Like I don't know what Deadmau5 does when he's like out and about, but I know when he's like at his place, he's probably just like cooped up in the studio making new sounds, making new tracks, and like,
that guy has walls of like physical synths. Have you seen him?
No, his shit is unreal.
A mad scientist with plugging everything in by hand. And
see, but I don't have that time. Like I don't know how people have that time.
Yeah,
especially that's what confuses me too, is like how when I get okay, Deadmau5 probably isn't going on like a tour every 2 weeks or whatever, but like when you're that big and like he runs a record label and so on and so forth, and I think I don't know if he like races cars, but I know he's into like supercars and and going out and like driving on the track and stuff like that. I don't know where he finds like the ridiculous amount of time that he puts into music. Like I get that is his occupation, but with like so many other things going on, I would have thought like the music production time would have been cut back a little bit at least. Like obviously it's still a big part, but I thought it'd be a bit more toned down. But no, he seems to be going just as hard, and like I don't know.
You'd think to get to that level of success, you'd have to be like pretty tunnel vision, and you wouldn't have time for distractions and all this other stuff. But I don't know. Maybe, I mean, do you really hear about him as much these days? Like, when was the last time he had a big hit on the radio? And I'm not in any way like taking shots at Deadmau5 here, but he's kind of he's drifted a little bit into the background these days. And
I don't think he's released an album for the past like a year or two or something like that. But I don't know. I heard the Velt or whatever on the radio the other day. I don't know if you know that song. Like the world that the children made. That song. No. I heard that on the radio the other day, and that gave me a pleasant reminder that he still exists.
Okay.
And his music is still there. Yeah, but he is definitely he's less present, but I don't know. But yeah, like EDM just wasn't for me. It just didn't have. Partially like my motivation, like I try and be as motivated as possible, but like, oh man, making like an EDM track and like, okay, when you hear something wrong in the mix, like having to fix it when you have like a bajillion layers going on and stuff like that, it becomes really involved and it can become very tedious, and like I just don't really have the patience for that.
A lot more automation too, I would think.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, no, the amount of like risers and sweeps
Right,
and
yeah.
automations and stuff. Because that's the thing. Like, okay, like if you're making, it depends on what genre you're making. Regardless, there is going to be a lot of automation. But if you're making something that's like more core, like melodically wise, like it less complicated, it requires a ridiculous amount of automation. Like you can. Like progressive house is like usually a track built upon like a super solid chord progression and a melody, and the whole thing that drives it is the automation changing the main sounds.
Exactly.
And yeah, like that stuff's fun, and like I from time to time I do make some EDM. Like I just finished a remix the other day of Elrad by Knife Party.
Okay.
And I did that for my Ableton project. That turned out really good. But that was like that's trap. Like I don't do the house thing anymore because like the 4/4 music, super repetitive, just like long intros, long outro. I can't do that, man. Like it's just like, 15 seconds of it plays, and then you have to think of something to keep it interesting for the next 45 seconds until the track really starts. And it's just like, I can't do that.
Because really, at the end of the day, there's not. The vocal isn't meant to be the main focus in that
If there
genre.
even if there is a vocal, yeah, exactly.
Because when you're making a trap beat, you get your kicks in place, you got a cool hi-hat roll, but then the vocalist is what's really keeping the listener interested, right? But in that EDM, like you said, every 15 seconds you've got to put a new part into it to keep the listener interested so they don't get bored. So I can see now why, maybe that would be.
Well, that's what I think caused a lot of people to start producing trap.
Exactly, to steer away from that because it's fuck.
What did I just get myself into?
This one song actually turns into an album. This one song is a whole project because there's so many different parts to it and it just keeps evolving. Whereas like your trap beat, you basically got your 4 bars. Just loop that shit for 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, well, no, like there are definitely like the higher I don't know how to describe it. Some beats you get, they're super complicated, and usually it's still the artist that really ties it together. Like it's complicated to the point that it doesn't draw away from the artist, but it's still like, wow, this is like a super killer beat. And then sometimes you just hear things that are so simplistic, and I have like definitely heard a few rap beats that is just the same thing from start to finish, and the entire thing that drives it and makes it sound interesting is the artist switching up their flows, new hook, whatever it is, and to each his own, I guess. I don't know. It's weird because it's also like if you produce like a certain type of beat, it's sort of gonna end up like that. I don't know how to describe what I mean, but some beats, it just feels right to keep it super simple and repetitive, and then other ones, it feels like you need something to constantly, be getting expanded upon or whatever. I don't know, and some things just naturally flow. Like sometimes, some variation in the drums works well because you have like some chords that build up and stuff like that. I don't know how to describe it. I keep saying that. Fuck, I need to get better at describing things.
It's okay. So when you're putting together a beat, like what do you start with? Do you start melody first? Do you start with your drums first? How is it built usually, or is it different every time? Maybe.
It does vary sometimes because like. If you're working with familiar samples, you can start with drums, but I find like a lot of the time starting with drums, if it's samples that you aren't as familiar with or like new sounds, you can't really gauge like what you're really doing, if that makes sense. Like, Because yeah, you can be like making sure your levels are good in your mix and it sounds quote unquote good to your ears or whatever, but then when you compare it to other things, you can hear sort of what stands out as wrong. So like if I'm working with like some really basic drums that I've used like a lot, I'll start with the drums because like I know like a certain 808, like I just turn it up this much, throw this kick on with it, and then hi-hat pattern or clap. My drums are good, and then I can start my melodies.
Yeah.
But then other times it's like, okay, I want to focus on the melody, make something sound super killer, and then build the drums afterwards. Because like it varies. Sometimes you get a super good melody idea, and then you can't think of drums to like match up well with it.
Yes.
And then sometimes you make like killer drums, and you can't make a melody that sounds good with that. And it's just like, so you sort of have to go with whatever feels right in the moment. Because sometimes I'll get one layer down that's like melody wise, and then I'll be like, okay, now I can lay down some drums. And then sometimes it requires like 3 or 4 synths, and then I'm like, okay, this feels like it has like a good vibe to it. And then sometimes it turns out that the melody I made was a bit too complex for the beat, and then I got to tone it down. But
yeah, it's different. It's wherever you find inspiration, and for me personally, it's different every time.
Yeah.
When I grab a sample, it might distract. I might like it so much that I can't think of drums because I'm so like. Or if I find I don't know if I'm a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll literally just take loops from Logic and I might EQ it differently or like reverse it, but it's pretty much that. I'll chop it up sometimes, but very rarely, and then build the drums on top of that. But sometimes you just get so lost in the sample, you're like, are my drums gonna ruin it? Like.
Exactly.
I don't know. Is it gonna take away from this feeling I'm getting originally from this sample, or so that's where it's that delicate balance. It's like cooking. It's like this is, I've got chicken here or whatever, but I got to find just the right sauce for it. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's chicken, but it's gonna complement it right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I find like mix wise for ensuring that I get like a somewhat like okay mix, and I totally don't destroy everything because it's very easy for me to do for me to do that. I do usually like to start with my synths because like I'll just like make a melody or two, so I just like get a rough idea of like how I want to EQ it, because the majority of the time when you're making like rap beats, you're gonna cut like the lows out of your synths to leave room for your 808s. So like get that going, and then I try, I don't know, I like to try and make sure that everything like has like a decent like space in the stereo field. I don't know, I've been using a lot of the Ozone Imager lately because that shit is amazing. I didn't realize how big of a difference that shit makes until you really like get into it and you like do a little bit of focus listening, and it's really not even that hard to hear once you like realize what it's doing. I just like, I don't know, I noticed that was like a problem in a lot of my mixes, was like my synths were like, they sort of just like stacked over top of each other, and instead of feeling like they had like their own like room in the mix and stuff like that. So I don't know, once you get like some synths like sitting well, it's a bit easier to like balance out your drums, because that's the thing, when you start with drums you can easily like get things a bit too loud before you even start fucking adding synths and shit like that.
Right.
But I also think making melodies in the beginning is somewhat important. Like it depends on the type of beat you're making, but like if you're trying to make something that sounds like pretty complex or whatever, or that has like a really distinct vibe to it, it's good to like make a melody and then like be really, really picky about your samples. Like you hear that everywhere, but like I didn't realize how important it was until recently, and that's like the whole like sample selection thing. Like so many people are like, oh, sample selection's key, and it is true, because like, man, sometimes I like grab a kick and it like level wise it's the exact same as another kick, but it just like hits so much harder and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's like some wild like pre-rendered compression or whatever, like they did that before they rendered it out, but for whatever reason, it has the same actual like volume level, but it hits harder. So like you can gauge like how you're gonna be doing your drums, and you can also get like a better idea. Like because you can get a drum pattern down after you make your melody and then replace your samples.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I don't know. I find it a lot harder to like once I've made like some melodies, replace the sounds in the melodies.
Yes.
Like sometimes it works and yeah, you can find a killer sound. And you're like, oh yeah, no, that sounds better or whatever. But then majority of the time though, I find it's just like, oh, I totally fucked that up now that I changed the sound.
You change the vibe of the song.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point,
exactly.
as opposed to just like changing the hi-hat to a hi-hat.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's not going to change it as much as the whole grit and tone and character of your pad or your melody or whatever. Like
no, and yeah. Sometimes the drums too. Like, okay, you can have like, I think this is like the most important like aspect of it is like you can have like a killer melody and like chord progression, so on and so forth, just killer melodic content. But if you have shit drums, you have pretty much like you know, it takes away a lot of the effect if you have like really really bad samples.
Yes.
And like for the longest time, like I had no idea like what good and bad samples were and stuff, and then like once I got some good samples and I was making some loops with them, I realized like, wow, this actually is like hitting the vibe that I want it to. And so that's where it becomes like sample selection is super key, because then you can get even like more into it, and then you find sounds that have a really like, I don't know, distinct style to them. Like they can be used to make like certain style beats. Like you have like producers like Wonder Girl and Eastbound who use like some pretty wild weird percussive sounds, and they get like real creative with their hi-hats and stuff, for example. Like and so you can literally got like my buddy Audio Drugs, he'll spend like a ridiculous amount of time on sample selection, whereas like sometimes I just rush through things and like try and lay down a beat, but sometimes like he'll spend like 20-30 minutes just like picking out the freaking kick, clap, and hi-hat, you know, just like going through after he's already made the drum loop, just like replacing stuff. But it can make a big difference, because you know, once you have that solid idea down, all it's about is making that idea sound the best it possibly can, and sometimes that involves replacing the sounds with better sounds.
Yeah, or layering them, like you said.
Yeah.
That's a technique that I've used pretty much from the very beginning. Is I'll get with my keyboard, I'll get my MIDI drum pattern laid out, but that's just my coloring book, and then I fill it in, right? Like that's just my blueprint, and my kick, I'll just go through my kick library and pick a kick and line it up with my MIDI. But the MIDI that I've played is never what you hear. It's always layered on top, about shit layered on top of it. It's just a place to start, and it really makes you realize how important drums are. Like you can almost take away every other instrument and just have the vocal and drums. You know, like just some pounding, grimy. It doesn't even. I'm not even talking about hip hop. I can think of like, you know, Led Zeppelin or bands like that, where it's just like, holy fuck, just there's a part in the song where it's just the drums and some reverb, and you're like, this sounds amazing.
Yeah,
like,
well, no,
why is that?
It's the drums are what drives the track, and that's something that my teachers have stressed incredibly too. And like, I know some people, they struggle with drums, and that really, like, as a producer especially, getting good at drums will like bring your beats to the next level. Because like I know people that, like, I have one buddy that he's really really talented when it comes to like making melodies and chord progressions. Like he's really good, but he just doesn't, he's not able to execute his drums in the way that he wants to. Like he has the right idea, but some things are like placed oddly and stuff like that, and like, I don't know. Yeah, getting good at your drums and like getting a good sense of rhythm. Like I don't know. I feel like I developed like somewhat a sense of good rhythm, or like what flows in like a drum beat from listening to like a lot of EDM music. Because like when I started music production, which was EDM, I joined the DJ program at the new SU Center. Shout out to them, they're legends. But yeah. Like all I was mixing was like, you know, I'd mix pop, but then I'd be mixing like mostly house music, because especially at the time that was like what I was really into. Like I like more like hybrid trap, and I like some dubstep now, but I don't go out of my way to listen to that sort of stuff. But when I was a bit younger, that was basically all I listened to. Yeah. But like it's also standardized, like it's 4/4, but that eventually that gets grounded sort of into your head, and then like sort of like, oh, this beat, like it has consistency. And so even like when I started making music, yeah, my drums were not consistent. They sounded horrible. I sounded like I was like a 3-year-old banging on pots and pans and stuff. That was like like, oh man, everybody that like starts in FL, they start using the step sequencer, and they're like doing like triple claps and stuff like that, like and the kicks are just like all over the place and stuff like that. Oh man, it's wild. But then, you know, once you figure out how to turn that into a proper rhythm, it's like a whole new level. And then, you know, once you go from there, it's just like better sounds. And yeah, the drums make or break a track, like 100%. Man.
Yeah,
like
no question. Besides the vocal.
yeah.
So obviously you spend quite a bit of time in this genre. You're making beats. You're in touch with the rappers, sending them, you know, your instrumentals. But do you spend any time, you know, actively listening to like current music, or do you have an appreciation also for the other side of it, which would be like the actual rapping, like the MCing? I mean, nowadays it's tough to call it MCing because I don't think you can. There's the lyricism aspect is kind of the last thing. Is at the bottom of the pyramid, whereas in the 90s it was at the top. But are there people that you're really into these days on like a, not on a beat level, but on a lyrical level? Like, who are some of the people that you like?
Like you're just meaning like in general, like non-local like people, right?
Yeah, no, just
Okay.
I mean, because there's so many. I gotta ask everybody every hour. There's a new guy, so we gotta keep up. We gotta find out. Gotta do our homework.
Well, I mean, besides my boy Leps, who has the most ridiculous lyrics in the game.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Leps.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, lyric. It's weird because, you know what, you sort of hit the nail on the head there. The lyricism has sort of gone out the window. So I don't know. Like,
maybe not just on a lyrical level. We just forget that. But just who are some of the, not beat makers, but like who's on your phone right now? Like on your top played tracks these days?
well, that's hard to say because, you know, I have the iPhone XR without a headphone jack, and I refuse to use the the Apple headphones they fucking gave me for it. So I don't actually listen to a lot of music. It's weird to say that, actually. I don't listen to a lot of music in my free time. I mostly like hear stuff when I'm like over at my friend's place and we're just like chilling. They bump like a lot of music, like I like Gunna, Lil Baby's good. Like they just make like catchy fucking hits, man. Killy is obviously fire. Love Killy's music. Who else? I just recently found out about YG, the dude from Toronto. That guy has some pretty catchy music. Houdini's dope. Who else? Like, I like that the Going Bad song by Drake and Meek that they released. Have you heard that song?
No, but I did hear they've squashed their beef.
Oh yeah. No, that beef is over with. No, they made like this crazy ass music video where they crash like, fuck what? I'm probably saying the wrong car, but they crash like two Rolls Royces like head on into each other. I don't know if that was like some CGI shit, but like,
well, they could probably afford to crash real ones.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, yo, they probably fucking did that. That's wild.
We got one take to do this, guys.
Yeah. But you know, Drake will pay for the second one if we really need it. But you know. But yeah, they've been making some fire music. Like Drake's obviously, he's just like releasing like banger after banger.
Yeah.
But that's a bit. He's verging more into sort of like the pop scene, but I would consider like him to be a rapper, obviously. Who else? Yo, Smiley from Toronto. He makes some dope music. Like again, okay, these are people that I don't go out of my way to listen to, but I do fuck with their music. Like I do like it. Like I don't mind it when it comes on. Like I do listen to Killy though, because Killy's music is fire, man. Like that new song I was telling you about that's on the radio. Like it's something different too. Like one of the reasons that it stood out to me is like the instrumental is like it's like some weird. I don't even know how to describe it, man. Like you have to listen to it after this, man. Like it's crazy. It sounds like robotic and futuristic and ambient. It's weird. But who else? Ritz the Kid is fire. Famous Dex, fire. He needs to release more music though. And stop just like rambling over some beats. Like I don't know if you've listened to any Famous Dex. Like do you know who Famous Dex is?
I mean, I've heard of him, but
okay, so he has some really good songs, and then he basically has some songs where he sounds like he took 10 Xanax and just started blabbering into a mic.
Well, he probably did.
But I don't know, like incoherent nonsense, and it's just like, why did you think this was an okay song to release? But like, still fuck with Dex. If you ever hear this,
as long as the video is
good.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes as long as the video's good, that's the big thing these days, right? It's just about rainbow hair and face tats, and
you know who fucked up recently? Lil Pump. He released a bad album. That album was bad. I doubt you've heard it. It's probably not even. Yeah, it wouldn't even interest you.
No.
I listened to bits and pieces of it, and it's horrible. It is a very bad album.
That's too bad.
It's very bad.
Yeah, because he was, making noise for a bit, and
he was making straight fire. He basically, it seems like he gave up on his beat selection. Like he was just like, oh yeah, this beat, throw it on the tape. This beat, throw it on the tape. Because he used to be getting like production. I think I could be wrong. I don't think he has any tracks produced by Ronnie J on his new album. And Ronnie J, if you don't know, he's like the guy that's basically responsible for making the songs that made X famous, making all the tracks that made Lil Pump famous.
Oh, wow.
And as well as a few other people. He made a song with Tyga and Iggy Azalea called Cream. It's a bit of a cringy song, but he has like absolutely killer beats. He makes like absolutely fire music, but that goes back to, again, like drums, the beat. It's important, man.
It is.
It
is. But it's hard to stay at the top. Because these guys, insert any name. Lil Pump, for example, making tons of money. He's like what, 8? He's a child still. He's 18 years old, and it's like, maybe you get complacent. Maybe you're just like, yes, whatever I do, people are going to download it anyways, so let's just get in the studio. Like, I don't know, hypothetically, I'm just thinking, but you can draw that similarity to sports too. Like, fighter becomes champion, gets a lot of money, starts recording rap songs, they've got new clothes and stuff, and then they're not in the gym as much, and then their next fight, they look like garbage. So,
well, the thing that's interesting, and this is actually, I read an article, and it was relating to the fact that Lil Pump just dropped the worst album. Like it's just so bad. It's really, really not good. But and this sort of goes back to the whole social media, internet thing, and how it brings everything together, and it brings people together. It lets you get information quicker, and it lets you see what's going on with these famous people. Basically, like you're right there with them. But as a result, like, a lot of these guys that got really, really famous in the past year or two, like 3 years even, they've been getting famous from social media antics almost. Like Lil Pump got really popular because he released a couple songs. He released the song called Lil Pump, where it looks like he is about to overdose on drugs, and he's just like going ham the whole time. But he got popular because, and I just read this, okay, like this might not necessarily be fact, but I do believe this. He got really popular on Twitter because there were some videos of him just doing some ignorant, stupid Lil Pump type shit,
right,
in some stores, and him just acting like a clown sort of. But like, that's, if you haven't noticed, sort of what's getting a lot of people really popular lately. And it's not necessarily dumb things. It's just like it's things that draw your attention, but not for a long period of time. And that's
true.
But that's how. But so, and this all relates to the fact that they are what like is being called social media rappers. Like, okay, this is a different example. And okay, he still has a substantial following. But Tay-K, who's currently awaiting trial for like 2 or 3 murders or something like that, he got extremely popular because he released a music video while on the run from the police called The Race. And it's about him trying to escape law enforcement. And so what does that do? It's like, whoa, look at this fucking kid. He's on the run. He's got the ankle monitor on, and he's making a music video, and he's out here like doing this crazy shit. And so that results in a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Buddy ends up going to jail. That results in even more attention, like blows up on social media, and now he's in jail. And yes, he does have a substantial following still, but you're not hearing about him every day. And to be fair, it is because he's in jail and he's not making all these moves. But it's like it's sort of similar with like these other people. Like you have Lil Pump who did this and that for like a little while, and you know the last super memorable thing he did was, you know, whatever, let's say last year.
Yeah,
whatever,
maybe even longer.
And so he hasn't really done anything besides release his music, which and this goes with this whole social media rapper thing. The music isn't what sells the music, if that makes sense. Like 6ix9ine, you had him. He was literally selling albums because he's telling everyone suck his dick. He's literally, and everybody like, yo, that dude has rainbow hair. He's out there telling people to suck his dick. Listen to this dude's music. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's literally like how it was.
Yeah.
And as a result, everybody was like, "Oh wow, this is ridiculous. This is weird." And then after a while, people are like, "This is kind of catchy." Oh, so on and so forth. And then he got popular, and now he's gonna get locked, and he is locked up or whatever.
Going to jail, yeah. For
well, so the thing is he might be getting out, but here's the thing. After he's ratted out all his homies and so on and so forth, he's not going to have anything. Okay, if he isn't in witness protection, he's not going to have anything for him to be flaunting around saying, oh, yeah, like, I'm with the blood, suck my dick. Like, you can't say that anymore. And that was what made him interesting.
Yeah.
That was what made him interesting.
That he was so outrageous.
Like, I remember, like, I was literally laughing out loud, like, whoa, this guy's ridiculous, because there's a video of him, like, freaking... Like, he's just screaming at the top of his lungs at these other guys, like 10 feet away from him. Just like, I'm in your city. And he's just freaking out. And I was just like, dude, this guy is ridiculous. But that was like what made him and his music interesting was the fact that he had that personality behind him.
Yeah. It was the online persona. It was the character that he was playing. And now, like you said, he's doing some time. He's going to be coming out, and those people aren't going to have his back anymore. So how is this guy going to reinvent himself? It's going to be really interesting. But will he, I mean, come on, 7-8 years from now, will we even remember him? Is he going to come out and put music out? Or it's interesting, like where that could go.
One thing that actually it sort of breaks the mold of the entire idea I'm sort of talking about. Actually, Bobby Shmurda, like you know Bobby Shmurda, right? Yeah. He's going to be. I just read something that said he was going to be taking more time so that his homie can get out sooner, which is just ridiculous. But like, all right, he's a real one. But yeah, there's so many people that are like ready for Bobby Shmurda to get out. Mm-hmm. Like they're like ready. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we're going to be back to the Bobby Shmurda music as soon as he gets out. Like that's a weird one because he literally had like a couple songs. Like obviously his one song, Hot, insert N-word here, blew up, and it has like hundreds of millions of views, I'm pretty sure. And so that's a bit of a weird example because that's like the only one song I can really think of him that like got super insane, but people are still like they're waiting for him to come back. Yeah. Whereas I don't see that with a lot of other people, like Trippie Redd, for example. Okay, he's a pretty big artist, but it seems like his entire career has died since 6ix9ine got locked up, because part of what was making Trippie Redd interesting was the fact he was like constantly beefing with 6ix9ine over just random stuff. Yeah. Because they weren't friends anymore.
And staying in your Instagram feed, right? And you constantly see him coming up. So his whole success was tied to someone else's timeline, someone else's story. And then when that disappears, like it's like the hero and the villain thing. Like when the Joker disappears, do you root for Batman as hard?
Exactly.
You gotta have both. So these guys are gonna realize like they're gonna have to reinvent themselves pretty damn quick. And then the other part of it is every hour literally there's a new person. So it's just getting so crazy and so saturated, and that's why these guys are having to get really outrageous, I think, with
Lil Milk,
with their videos and whatnot. It's just like it's shock value. It's like it's what can how can we get it? How can we get eyes almost more than ears? You know?
Oh yeah, no, definitely, no, for sure. That's exactly how it is. Like, no question. Like, oh man, and well, and then you have people that are like they become like social media icons to a degree, and then they decide they want to do music. Like, oh man, there's that dude. I don't know. Have you seen that fucking long neck dude?
Yeah.
Oh fuck, man, that shit. That shit
is he making music?
Yo, fuck yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I was not aware
so
of that.
he made a song with the wide neck guy, and it's like, fuck. What is it called? Like Up Next.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is real.
Oh yeah.
This is
yeah.
This is the world we live in now.
Yeah, for real. Like, it's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, just think, like, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago? We had a song about what does the fox say? Do you remember that song?
Oh yeah. That
Fuck.
one I do remember. That was
There's always been
It was a children's song, but made for adults. Like it was the formula of it was a child's song. It's like a sing along, basically.
Basically that song is. I don't know. It's weird. It's actually strange though, because you look back and then you think about it, and there sort of has been a place for that weird sort of music all along. Like, you know, you have Weird Al stuff making all his parody songs of famous tracks. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know how we even got here.
That's all good.
But
well, we were talking about
started with artists.
Bobby Shmurda, and then I wanted to get a chance to talk to you about before we get you out of here about some of your favorite plugins. What I want to try and do when we have like producers and engineers on is we're gonna I'm basically gonna ask you a question, and I just want like a 1-word answer.
Okay.
So, you all set?
What if the answer is a multi-word plugin or something?
If the plugin has two words, that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with EQ.
Pro Q3.
Pro Q3, dope. And that's that new
Fab Filter.
It's the new from Fab Filter. Yeah, I still need to check that out.
Shit is money. It has dynamic EQ built into it. I mean, I don't really fucking use that, but it's sort of cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing a bit more than I actually am.
Yeah, I got the Pro MB recently, like the multi-band, so that's dope. But I'm interested to see like how the dynamic EQ is different than the multi-band compression. So, all right, that's up next for me. That's going to be on my list. How about limiter? Or do you even use a limiter? Because I know you're using
my quote unquote limiter would be like the
Fruity Loops, and Ableton kind of have like a built-in one, don't they? Almost.
Well, FL has the limiter like already on the track, but I take that shit off. I mean, like good sounding limiters is like you have like the Waves like L1 or whatever. That's a good limiter. But like I like the Pro L2. Okay. But I don't regularly use them. No, I don't know. Yeah.
Waves L1. Do you have a favorite reverb?
That would be like, I don't know. I don't really know how to use like Pro R too well, but either Pro R or
that's also Fab Filter, isn't it? Yeah.
Pro R or Valhalla Room, because Valhalla Room you can get some pretty cool results pretty easily.
I like the Valhalla as well.
It's good. It's good for making. Like I was doing some sound design like for the EDM remix I did the other day. Valhalla Room, fucking killer for like making some synths sound a lot more wilder than they are.
Big like anthem type synths, right? Yeah.
Sick.
I like that one. I think it defaults to like 4 seconds.
Oh, it's something ridiculous. No, Valhalla Room is a beast.
Yeah.
And the other ones, the Plate and the vintage one, I fucking love that one actually. I would put the vintage reverb probably above Valhalla Room, but they're both like pretty close. Mm-hmm. I think I like the vintage one though, because it's a bit more simpler.
Compression on drums.
I like the M comp from Waves. I don't use it much. Like I don't know. I like C2 or whatever from Fab Filter. That shit is C2 sounds like the most transparent, but again, I don't use compression like very often or really at all. And like if I do, I just use like OTT on synths and shit like that. Make it sound a bit brighter.
OTT, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Those are the big main ones. Those are the salt and pepper. Anything that you have discovered recently that you want to share, like a new technique or a new or a new discovery, whether it's mixing, producing, or something that you didn't know that your DAW could do?
In FL, I just recently figured out how to copy, like, just do some like funky automation stuff so that I don't have to like remake the same automation clips for other channels. Like, I've realized you could actually copy like the exact. It's like you copy the state of the automation, you can paste it into another one, and then it becomes the identical same one. So like in FL, like I do a lot of like I do side chaining with like the volume of the sound. I don't like use a compressor or a limiter or whatever to side chain. I just do like volume ducking.
Yeah.
So if I have like multiple layers, it's really good to like be able to copy and paste the automation. Like stuff I recently found out about. Like, this wasn't that recent, but the T-Rax, that T-Rax classic clipper is like really good because I used to use a soft clipper in FL a lot because I wouldn't use a limiter, and I just like the distortion you get from like overdriving the drums. But T-Rax classic clipper is good because you can use that in any DAW and get like basically the same effect, if not better. I was telling Den about this, but Shaper Box is good for like some cool like sound manipulation and shit. It has like everything. It like basically creates like pre-made like automations for everything from like time stretching to panning to stereo width.
Oh, crazy.
And volume gating and phasing as well. And then I don't know, like the last thing. Everybody should know about Isotope Vinyl because that shit's free and it's fucking awesome.
Is that free?
It's so
dude,
so
I'm getting
free.
that.
It's so good.
I'm getting
it's
that tonight.
so amazing. It's dude, like I don't make lo-fi music, but I figured out a quick little hack. You just route all your fucking drums to a bus that has vinyl on it.
Yeah.
And there's this little knob, and it goes through like increments of 10 years, and you can go back to like 1950 or something like that, and it just makes everything sound like it's recorded just bare bones as just about as badly as it could be done.
Yeah, like one mic for the whole band.
Yeah, so
in the
basically
50s.
all you get is like really like crispy, like distorted sort of high end and it makes everything sound like cool. I don't know. It's dope, but yeah,
Isotope Vinyl.
That shit is money.
Okay.
And but the real money part of it is the detune, because there's like 4 different detune shapes because it like modifies or whatever.
Yeah.
The pitch, or like puts a pitch automation thing on it, and so you can set the amount of times it repeats like per second or whatever the fuck it is, or minute. And you can change the shape of your detune and the amount that it actually is affecting the sound.
Super dope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shit is fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually gonna be my next one. Isotope.
Isotope
Vinyl. There we go.
And I just opened this like 2 nights ago. I don't know why I didn't know about this before. The Fab Filter Volcano sounds so fucking good. Like filters. Like do you know?
I've seen it on their website. What does it do?
Like it does everything. I'll show you for like 5 minutes after all this.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like what I mainly use it for is just like filters, and the reason I didn't use it is because I was just like, oh yeah, filter, fucking whatever. I could use an EQ, it'll sound the same.
Yeah.
No. Oh my god, the filters, they sound so good. But it's like I don't know, because it can do more than just filtering. Like it's like, I feel like it's partly like Saturn, because it's like multi-band saturation, because you can distort things in it as well.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's weird, man. But I use it mainly for filters, and they just sound so clean and so like natural. Like it's really, really nice. Like I put it on a mix the other day because I was just like thinking of like what can I do here to make things sound a little bit more interesting and not have everything like so abrupt.
Sure.
And I just happened to open Volcano, and that was like the perfect filter for like the introduction of my beat. So
excellent.
Yeah, Volcano. It's just fire.
Fab Filter Volcano.
Yeah.
Jesus, we're doing a fucking ad for Fab
Yeah,
Filter
I'm
here
sorry.
tonight.
I mainly, that is mostly what I use. Like
They're
Fab
my
Filter,
favorite as well,
Ozone.
so
Yeah.
I'm totally cool talking about
Fab
them
Filter
forever.
and
yeah.
Ozone. I don't really
Yeah.
open Neutron unless it's like transients, but I don't really ever do transient shaping. So
No.
like yeah, Ozone and Fab Filter. That shit is the money.
Hell yeah.
If you're gonna drop whatever that it's $500 for the Ozone bundle or whatever, $500. That's a good $500 spend, and then
Yeah.
Fab Filters how much? $800 for the full bundle.
For the full bundle, I don't know. I do know like the more you add to your cart, the less expensive each one gets.
Yeah.
But I don't know about their whole bundle. I mean, I've got about half of them already, and they've all pretty much been purchased one at a time. When I find that I might need it, or it looks interesting, or I see a tutorial that intrigues me, I'll go and grab one of them individually.
Well, yeah, let's just say
Yeah.
if you were down right now to spend $1,400 on some dope mixing
Yeah.
fucking plugins, and
Be a great place
know,
to start.
Yeah, Ozone and Fab Filter.
Hell yeah.
That shit is the money.
Yeah.
For real.
For your mixing and mastering.
Oh, yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
the whole start to finish, really.
Yeah.
And processing. Cool, man. So if people want to check out your music, where should they go?
I have a SoundCloud, but you can find the link to that SoundCloud. Actually, no, it's not. It's not on my Instagram. I don't know. My Instagram is MKDAMAKER, like DA, not the da.
DA.
Yeah, MKDAMAKER. I don't know why I made it that, but there's beats on my page.
Yeah.
The link in my bio is the link to my beat store.
Perfect.
And check out my boy Leps if you want to hear some stuff I've made, produced for him. Menace, Igo, and some other ones that are all equally as good and fire. So check those out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check them out. Cool, man. Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Appreciate being
And
here.
for everyone checking out the episode, thank you for listening.
You guys are dope.
And happy mixing, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.